I'm gonna draw your mom.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. MVP announces new women's boxing promotion to air on ESPN. Holly Holm's next fight is set.
It's the rematch with Stephanie.
MVP made another big move to put a spotlight on women's boxing. During a press conference, it was revealed that MVP launched a new women's boxing promotion called MVPW. Additionally, the all-women's boxing organization signed an exclusive multi-year domestic broadcast rights deal with ESPN, as well as strategic partnership with MSG Entertainment to host various events at Madison Square Garden for the next 3 years. Since the inception of MVP, it is strategically focused on creating an umbrella brand as the global home for women's boxing with the best fighters in the world that engages existing boxing fans and attracts untapped fan demographics that embrace women's sport. And today, we proudly enter a new era. MVP co-founders Jake Paul and Nakisa Badarian said in a joint statement, "Over the last 5 years, we have invested heavily in female athletes, delivered historic and record-breaking events, and proven that these athletes belong on the biggest stages in the sport. Partnering with ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, to launch MVPW across its platforms is a historic milestone." And aligning with the world's most iconic venue, Madison Square Garden, as we introduce the brand in the United States, reinforces the scale and ambition behind what we're building. Among the MVPW fights announced, former UFC champion Holly Holm faces Stephanie Han in a rematch for the WBA lightweight title in the main event of MVPW 3, which takes place May 30th in El Paso, Texas. The inaugural MVPW card takes place April 5th in London, featuring a unified lightweight title fight between Caroline Dubois and Terry Harper, along with an undisputed super bantamweight championship pitting Ellie Scottney against Mayeli Flores. MVPW 2 is set as the U.S. debut for the promotion and is headlined by Alicia Baumgartner versus Bomi Ray-Shin for the unified super featherweight title at the Infosys Theater at Madison Square Garden, formerly known as the Hulu Theater. Jade Green puts her unified super middleweight titles on the line against Lonnie Daniels in the co-main event.
So why the separation? Why have they now sectioned off the women they've signed to MVPW?
It could be because they mean to expand their horizons by signing more male fighters, as MVP has fast become the flagship promoter for women boxers all around the world. To sustain as a promotion, they can't just rely on the girls. They've got to start signing guys.
To stay competitive with a Matchroom, with a Queensbury, with a Top Rank,
they've got to start signing male fighters. And there are some male fighters that are out there they might be able to pick up. You have to wonder about newly crowned WBA champion Brandon Figueroa, as well as WBA champion Gary Antoine Russell, who could probably be a lot busier if they were promoted by MVP instead of the PBC.
Gotta start signing male fighters.
Some established names that are out there and reigning champions, contenders that the audience might already be familiar with, but as well as fresh faces. If you're asking me, why do I think they've sectioned off the women to this MVPW branch?
Sounding more and more like MVP want to form a UBO of their own for the women. At the same time, they may also be doing this to sign some men and branch out.
Why are they doing a rematch between Holly and Stephanie?
Contest ended prematurely due to an open cut in a fight that Stephanie Han was winning wide on the cards. If they're doing a rematch, I think it's to salvage their initial investment in Holly Holm, who is the bigger name of the two. All of her exploits in boxing, her Hall of Fame induction, as well as her exploits in the octagon at the UFC. She's a bigger name than Stephanie.
And they may still be trying to get something out of that, albeit as the away fighter. The fight is taking place in El Paso, Texas, where Stephanie Han is from and where she's well known. The Fighting Hans, a fixture in El Paso. Her older sister Jennifer, I believe they run a dojo out there as well.
She earned it. She won the first fight, retained her WBA title. I expect her to keep it. Based on what I saw from Holly in their initial meeting, she looked her age. She looked old, slow, always a step behind, where Stephanie was sharper, faster.
Beating her to the punch and beating her on points Unfortunately, I don't think Holly's gonna become a champion in what is her big comeback to the sport of boxing.
I initially thought she could, that Stephanie was green enough as a fighter that Holly's experience would be enough to help her lift the belt, but it wasn't.
And I don't think it's going to be any different in the rematch. I've got Stephanie winning the fight. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the continued campaign to bring Naoya Inoue to America, but not just bring him here.
They want him to be based out of America for some reason.
Veteran boxing scribe Zittel, who wasn't as abrasive in his request as some others have been for Inoue to come here, Sean said, as I noted in the second video, a lot has changed since stars from abroad would come to the United States. Naseem Ahmed pulled in bigger gates than any featherweight in history, let alone Kelly or Barrera, but he wanted big fights across the pond.
Well, that's great for Ahmed, but what are the big fights that are supposed to bring Inoue here, when the only thing that would make a featherweight bout big in the United States is that Inoue would be the one in it? So if he's the key component to making it a big fight, why would he acquiesce? Home field advantage.
Wouldn't expect any American-based fighter to do that, so why is he supposed to do that when he is now earning even more money than Naseem Ahmed was earning and drawing bigger crowds?
I mean, he's not just a bigger marquee attraction than Ahmed was, he's a more accomplished fighter as well.
By a lot. But Sean Zittel continued, Ahmed, like Inoue, didn't need the United States, maybe even more now, with the U.S. economy not being what it was in 1997, to make big money. And Kelly wasn't a big draw on his own, but a fight like that, a respected New York guy, gave Ahmed the foil he needed to have a big show in the U.S. at MSG.
Maybe having a big show in the U.S. doesn't mean to Inoue what it meant to Naseem Ahmed. It's really not the earmark that it used to be. And as stated, what it takes to make a big fight in the featherweight division is Inoue's participation. So if he's what makes it a big fight, shouldn't these guys be traveling to him?
What's even funnier is there have been featherweight bouts and titles changing hands at featherweight this whole time, and the Americans couldn't bat an eyelash over it. They don't care. So Inoue is supposed to care?
Come on, Sean.
Shouldn't these guys at featherweight have spent this whole time taking out the competition and fighting one another, unifying titles, so that when Inoue moves up, he has less options? Because they haven't done that. What they have done is stand online, single file, not unifying, thinking that each one of them is going to win the sweepstakes, when it doesn't work like that.
Sorry.
I remember when Andre Ward, who was not then the draw that Inoue is now, who was not in the United States what Inoue is in Japan, based himself out of Oakland. People didn't have a problem with that, they just expected it, accepted it, that Andre Ward is the champion, he's the pound-for-pound guy. If he wants to base himself out of Oakland, then so be it. But if Inoue bases himself out of Japan, where he's from, where he draws massive crowds and generates massive money, it's a problem?
Double standards are the problem for me. He's supposed to come here to pursue what and achieve what? Legitimacy? Because if you already don't think he's legitimate, you're never going to, after 4 weight classes and 2 undisputed runs.
Coming to America will not allay the criticisms he's been receiving fighting in front of people that don't even like him and aren't even arguing in good faith, because you know who did box out of America and based themselves here? Gennady Golovkin. And the whole time,
They weren't taking shots at that guy? The usual suspects? The usual suspects weren't taking shots at Chocolatito, who migrated from fighting in Japan to fighting in America. Also, the usual suspects could call him a manufactured HBO hype job after having been a champion at 4 weights.
tell me, Sean, what does it profit Inoue fighting here in America when here in America they don't even support their own goddamn fighters? For how long was Terrence Crawford in the shadows, not supported by his own people, still being one of the most accomplished and skilled fighters in the sport?
In the world.
But he didn't get their acceptance until his career was fucking over. That he knew he should now pursue that same acceptance? For what?
Money? He's already got money!
No, as stated, Sean Zittel was not as abrasive in his request for Inoue to fight here as some others, but need I remind you that he already did fight here. He fought 2 times in Las Vegas and once in Carson, California. Outside of that, he's fought in the United Kingdom and in Saudi Arabia, already making him more world-traveled than your average American boxer. You know that Brandon Figueroa, in the Nick Ball fight, that was the first time he fought outside of the United States.
So why are we expecting an exponentially bigger draw than Brandon, who earns more, accomplished more, to now uproot himself to fight in front of Americans who don't really watch super bantamweights or featherweights all that much. Unacceptable. I find it unacceptable the way that foreign fighters are treated by the American boxing populace. I don't think they have to pander to them anymore. In fact, I don't want them to. And every time Inoue chooses to fight in front of his own adoring public over there in the Far East, it is an affront to their American exceptionalism. Doesn't have to bow down to you. In fact, I don't want him to.
The verdict is in, and Vergil Ortiz's master plan to break his contract with Golden Boy Promotions was shot down by a federal judge in Nevada. So it's time to finally give you the facts. Here's the timeline of how it all went down. I hadn't heard from Vergil Ortiz since his fight back in November, where he openly praised me for being a great guy and a great promoter.
He is probably one of the most successful promoters in the history of the sport. And he has always been done right by me. I have nothing bad to say about him. I mean, he's gone out of his way. He texts me all the time. He's called me, he's FaceTimed me on Christmas. He does his job. I mean, everything that he's done, I think that he's done with good intentions with me. And I can't say anything bad about the guy.
So everything was terrific, right? And his father even sent me this message over the holidays. Then, out of nowhere, Vergil served us with a lawsuit in January to get out of his contract. So who was behind this lawsuit? The worst manager in boxing, Rick Meridian. Rick demanded that Vergil get paid triple what we're contractually obligated to pay Vergil for the Boots fight. We were ready to make the fight, and I was lobbying to get him the most money possible. But Rick, being the selfish asshole he is, tried to line his own pockets and felt the grass was greener with the others who interfered on the other side. And now, thanks to his poor advice, Vergil's sidelined, and he's headed to waste more money and time in mediation. And that could last years. Vergil, I still want to believe you're a good guy, and you received the worst advice on the planet. We always did right by you, treated you with respect. Remember when we were in Texas, and I sent President Eric Gomez to sit with you while you and your father cried about pulling out of the fight the week of? And this was the second time this happened. And still, we believed in you. I generously gave you $200,000. Did you forget about that? These are the facts, folks. Oh, and we had to constantly deal with your hothead father, who couldn't be less gracious or appreciative. And if you don't believe me, let me show you something, everybody. Here's a clip of the night before Vergil's last fight in November 2025, where his father got into a fist fight with a heckler, and my Golden Boy employees had to break it up while he was rolling around the floor of the hotel lobby shirtless. I mean, of course, my team was kind enough to protect you, Vergil, and begged the man your father assaulted not to press charges. Jesus Christ, this is the shit I have to deal with, and you're still this ungrateful? I protected you like family, and you turn your back on me? Vergil, I know the lies Rick is telling you, and how deep you are in this bullshit. You're gonna keep racking up the legal bills and burning money. Look, what Rick didn't tell you is that you could potentially stay on the shelf for years, just like Mikey Garcia did. And that's the way it's heading legally. The judge already ruled against you. But it isn't too late to fix this. From one fighter to another, you have to change the team around you. They're dragging you down, and we all see it from the outside. If you don't change your team, it's going to be another sad ending for another potential star in boxing. Even though you tried to screw me over, I still want what's best for all my fighters. And I always will.
I think that's the best one of those things Oscar De La Hoya has ever done. It's the one time I walked away thinking, maybe Oscar's not in the wrong here. Oftentimes when he does these Clackback Thursday segments, I walk away feeling, Oscar, you've got other things to worry about than talking shit about people, but here, he stuck to the facts and brought the receipts.
So is he wrong for trying to hold Vergil to this existing contract and seemingly holding the Boots fight to ransom? I guess That all depends on whether or not Vergil can get out of it, because we're talking about court proceedings, we're talking about contracts and legalese.
There's not necessarily a moral undertone baked in. This is all about what you negotiated, what you agreed to, and whether or not you can get out of it, or can Oscar hold you to it.
If he was happy with the job that Golden Boy Promotions was doing late last year, and in his own words, that's what he said.
Talking about Vergil.
Between then and now, what could have made Vergil change his mind?
Money.
It's not hard to see what happened here. As a result of this ongoing legal dispute, it came out that Matchroom offered Vergil Ortiz a deal for something to the tune of $15 to $20 million for a multi-fight deal that would have included a boots Ennis fight, a greater dollar amount than what he stands to make staying with Golden Boy, so that if he now all of a sudden isn't happy and wants to leave and has all of these problems, he doesn't like Oscar's Clapback Thursday segments, he doesn't like the way that he's been behaving and the bridges that he's burning, all of a sudden, when not that long ago he was singing his praises.
It's all because he wants more money.
That's it. That's the crux of it. Rick Merrigan negotiating all of this behind Oscar De La Hoya's back is because of the same thing. Rick Merrigan wants more money. 30% to the manager of $15 to $20 million is more for Rick than what he stands to make at Golden Boy.
So this is just another guy who's after more money. Do you out there think there's something wrong with that? Something wrong with pursuing a better deal?
For me, it all boils down to the legalese. Whether or not Vergil Ortiz is actually able to accept this greater dollar amount that he stands to make at Matchroom instead of staying at Golden Boy. There's no moral undertone baked in. Vergil and Rick want more money? Can't say as I blame them. Who doesn't want more money? But at the same time, Oscar's not wrong for trying to hold him to his existing contract.
It's important to understand here that if Vergil Ortiz and Oscar De La Hoya were to make amends, then the boots fight can still happen in a timely fashion, so that if it's stuck in limbo now, it's not because it's not possible to make it. Vergil just doesn't want Golden Boy to be involved.
That's why it's in limbo.
And that's why they're at an impasse. Eddie Hearn, knowing that Golden Boy Promotions' deal would be up by the end of last year, likely contacted Rick. They get together, they get to talking, and they try to devise a plan to get Vergil over to Golden Boy. It's not hard to see how we got here.
Rick Merrigan discloses certain sensitive details of Vergil's existing contract with Golden Boy and what loopholes they might use to get out of that deal and into a new one, which created this entire problem.
The biggest loser here would be Vergil. If he ends up losing additional time and additional months on this, just to end up being held to the contract anyway, sitting on the shelf, collecting dust, not making money, and fading into obscurity. The ends have to justify the means.
The wisdom of this decision all hinges on whether or not Vergil can get out of this deal, and for me, it's not clear right now if he can or he can't.
At minimum, I expect this entire ordeal to last all through the summer. I don't expect to see Vergil back in the ring for a while, but your guess is as good as mine as to whether or not he can get out of this.